How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dance School here again today, back once again with another episode of my Conquest series for you. Today we'll be taking a look through the pages of issue 50. Before we get into this though, make sure you go check out the Hobby Corner. If I remember, I'll pop a link up there. If not, check out a link in the description below if you want to see more building and painting guides of the miniatures featured in Conquest magazine. Make sure you go and check them out. So, to start off with the magazine, what do we get in issue 50? We get 2 sprues, or technically 1 sprue twice, and that sprue is the Chaos Cultist sprue. It's got 5 Chaos Cultists on each sprue, giving us 10 Chaos Cultists, which is it's nice, a nice addition to the Death Guard force, gives us a little bit of diversity, gives us a cheap in terms of power level, and in terms of points, gives us a cheap alternative to filling your army out with more Death Guard miniatures, another cheap troop to go along with your Poxwalkers, but with a bit of a ranged threat. So, the sprue itself, you normally get a box containing 1 sprue, so a box of 5 Chaos Cultists, and that is £6 on the Games Workshop website, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I'll correct it here. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right with £6, and you multiply that by 2 because you're getting 2 sprues, giving you a total of £12. So we're saving about £4 this issue, which it's alright, it's not too bad. It's a decent saving. And then, yeah, so what else do we get in the issue? I've forgotten how to film these videos all of a sudden. What else do we get in the issue? I'll read the front cover. We get Death Guard Chaos Cultists. That's what I've just spoken about. Then we get History of Demonic Incursions and the Battle for Sanctus. So, turning on to the first page. Death Guard Chaos Cultists. This page talks about Chaos Cultists, funnily enough. The first couple of pages do that. And they talk about how when a planet is under threat from chaos, or actually it talks not necessarily when a planet is under threat from chaos, but just the sort of reasons an Imperial citizen might turn from the light of the Emperor and fall to chaos, start worshipping one of the chaos gods. And basically it's because the Imperium is such a horrible societal system that you're expected to toil for the good of the Imperium and for the glory of the Imperium. Then you don't really get any benefit from it unless you're corrupt in other ways, like you climb any kind of social ladder you can, or if you've got a really valued skill, you might be able to. There's ways out of the Imperial system, but it's still heavily involved in the Imperium. Say going off to become a rogue trader, but then how do you become a rogue trader? There's no way of doing that if you're just born a farm worker on an agri-world or something like that. So you're expected to just toil for the Imperium, and it's a really oppressive regime, and it's galaxy-wide. There's no free human worlds. If there's a free human world, they're considered heretics, and they would be crushed immediately. So the reason some people fall to chaos and these insidious cults spring up on various planets, is because people have had enough. When, let's say, your crops fail on this agri-world and there's not even enough food to feed yourselves, feed the locals, but the little you do manage to, the little harvest you do manage to make is sent off to other planets that are considered more important to provide food for the workers on other planets, and then you're left to starve almost. So yeah, that's the kind of system that humans are living in the 41st millennium, and therefore they start begging other powers, other devious powers, other shadowy powers, the Chaos Gods. They start begging them for aid. If they're ill, they might pray to Nurgle to stop them feeling nauseous, but they'll still suffer from flesh dripping off the bones and stuff like that. But it's a good alternative because Nurgle will stop their pain and stop their suffering, but they'll take joy in what they're feeling rather than the misery in which they're currently living. So that's that's the main, like, one of the reasons that I pointed out here. I think it's interesting that they've approached it like that, rather than saying chaos cults are, you know, rather than taking the imperial standpoint and saying chaos cults are terrible things and they should be purged at all costs. They're giving the other side of the story, which Games Workshop don't always do. Normally, they present things from an imperial point of view, or not necessarily normally, but because sometimes they will present things from a Xenos point of view, like so in the Eldar Codex, the Eldari Codex, Craftworld Eldar Codex, they might present things from the Eldar point of view, but a lot of the time it's presented from the Imperial point of view, especially in the general lore of the game. So you don't always understand the reasons why someone might worship a Chaos God. Anyway, on to the next page. The first two pages have been covered there quite nicely, I think. Chaos Rising. We get some more lore from millennia 15, so 25,000 years before the current setting in the 41st millennium. Millennia 15, all the way up to millennia, the time of the Horus Heresy, basically. So millennia 30 to 31, the dawn of the Imperium. So the Great Lull, millennia 15, creation of warp devices and standard template construct technology, along with the emergence of the first navigators, heralds the start of the golden age of discovery. So this is the time when the Imperium first, it was pre-Imperium, sorry, and this is the time when humanity first spreads itself amongst the stars. And then there's the awakening from millennia 25 to millennia 30, which is when more and more humans are developing in psychic powers. More and more psychers are born across the galaxy, and this is the big psychic awakening. The rise of the Emperor, this mysterious figure known as the Emperor upon Terra, rises upon Terra and unites the techno-barbarian tribes that live there. The birth of Slaanesh happens around about the same time, in the same 5,000 years, 5,000 year span. So the Eldar civilization has given itself over to pleasure and excess and all forms of depravity, and basically because of their psychic abilities, that birthed a Chaos God, a new Chaos God. Prior to this, it was only Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. But then, because of all the Eldar depravity and the the emotions and stuff, birthed the Chaos God, Slaanesh. And then the scream of the birth of Slaanesh wiped out most of the Eldar population across the galaxy. The Eldar at the time were the dominant force in the galaxy. But then all of a sudden they were shattered. Their souls sort of taken from their bodies. They dropped dead in their billions, and Slaanesh consumed their souls, and all their soul energy was absorbed by Slaanesh, and that's what helped birth the god, basically. And then the storms abate. Upon the birth of Slaanesh, the vast warp storms that swept across the galaxy begin to calm and reduce in frequency, size, and ferocity. So around the time of the awakening is when the warp storms also happen, I think. Yes, I didn't actually cover that, but there we go. Dawn of the Imperium, the piercing light. So the Dawn of the Imperium is heralded by the lighting of the Astronomicon. I could look through these chapters to try and remember what I'm talking about, but I know I'll just be staring at the pages and be silent on screen. So I'm trying to just do it from memory. The great game begins anew. Having feasted upon the souls of the Eldari, the Dark Prince expands his domain. The Dark Prince being Slaanesh, that is. Such a bold move is met with great opposition, and Chaos Gods turn their attention fully to the Great Game. The Great Game is basically the Chaos Gods trying to one-up each other and gain advantage against one another and fighting out amongst themselves. And then it's the Horus Heresy around this time as well, the 30th to the 31st millennium. The Emperor returns to Terra, leaving the continuation of the Great Crusade to his Primarchs. and in doing so, he enables the Chaos Gods to sort of get under the skin of some of the Primarchs and twist their opinions of the way things are going, and basically take advantage of the little chinks in the armour of the Primarchs and the mental armour of the Primarchs rather than the physical armour of the Primarchs, and gets under the skin and corrupts some of the Primarchs, and that is what leads to the Horus Heresy. The Ravening Storm, the mining colonies of Ictar 9 are cut off from the Imperium for 9 centuries. When the Warp Storm ends, nothing remains of the billions of miners who lived there, and there is no clue as to their terrible fate at the hands of the Demon Legions. Now, the reason I read this chapter, or this paragraph rather, is because of those billions of miners. Could some of them have gone on to become Chaos Cultists? I thought it was quite appropriate for this issue. Is it likely that they could have gone on to become Chaos Cultists? Possibly. But will their souls have just been consumed by one of the Chaos Gods, and then that energy put into creating more demons or something like that? Quite possibly as well. But I thought it was a nice little link if, for example, they did go on to become Chaos Cultists, like billions of cultists, and now abroad in the galaxy. So, on to how to build Chaos Cultists. Really simple one, this. I think each cultist, or almost each cultist, I think each cultist, in fact, just has 2 parts. So, they each have either an auto gun or an auto pistol and a brutal close combat weapon. And over the next page shows you really simply how they go together. Yeah, they each have 2 parts according to this. And then, on to how to paint Chaos Cultists. We get 8 pages this time of how to paint. On the first page it sets out all the paints you'll need really simply. So for the base paints it's Retributor Armour, Death Guard Green, Mephiston Red, Abaddon Black and Steel Legion Drab. Then it goes on to shade paints on the right hand side there. It's got the layer paints. There are more base paints as well. There's 10 base paints in total. Then there's the layer paints, 6 of them in total, and a texture paint to do your bases at the end. Flicking over to the end of this, of course it's showing you all the various parts to pick out, but flicking over to the final page we get the finished models. They look quite nice with the green robes. It'll really tie them in with the Death Guard if you've been following the paint scheme for the Death Guard. I myself am I'm doing like a bony, creamy paint scheme for the Death Guard, so I might do something more in line with that, or I'm a bit tempted to just go with the greens because this is a nice little paint job. It looks a little bit, with that green, for me, a little bit military, and the Chaos Cults might, I don't see them necessarily as being drawn from the military. I see them more being drawn from the Imperial citizenry, so I'd maybe steer clear of the greens if you don't want that military feel. Whereas with the bony colours and basically they're trying to emulate their Death Guard masters. So I appreciate if you followed the Death Guard colour scheme, go with this colour, this green colour. But if you are going with a different colour scheme, maybe don't go with this green colour unless you want them to look like a military force. And then on to the next page. This is the rules section. Rise of the Cultists. Really nice story in this section here, and a really surprising game as well when I get to that page. But basically, to give you an overview, the citizens of Corvon II fled in fear and fought against the invading. Not all, citizens of Corvon II fought in fear or fled against the invading Death Guard. Some have taken an opportunity to rebel against the Imperial Masters and throw their lot in with the heretics. In the slums of Sanctus, these cultists have established a particularly strong following. So Sanctus, to set the scene, it was at first not considered a strategic asset to either side in this battle, to the Ultramarines or to the Death Guard. So it was kind of ignored. But due to unfolding, I won't go into too much detail, but as the conflict unfolded, it's become important to get to Sanctus and to have this fight in Sanctus. There's a lot of Imperial citizens there, and there is a character there called Ludmilla Tark, or Tarch, and here's her Vox transmission.
This is Governor Ludmilla Tark. I am sheltering in Sanctus with my remaining bodyguards. We are surrounded and cannot hold our position much longer. Please send assistance. Heretic forces have overrun the city, and the walking dead clog the streets. Please send assistance. To any who would respond, beware. Sanctus sees with the traitors and heretics. Trust no one. May the Emperor protect us.
Transmission ends. So that sets the scene for this battle, really. Governor Ludmilla Tark sending out a distress call, and she's under siege in the city from the heretic, the Death Guard forces, and it leads to this battle. So the battle contains very small forces, or, well, definitely for the Space Marines, very small forces. It's actually a decent sized force for the Death Guard forces. However, there are no Death Guard miniatures. It's 10 Chaos Cultists and 12 Poxwalkers. So they're all human. And then against the Space Marines, there's 5 Space Marine Scouts. Whilst the Space Marine Scouts are the weakest Space Marine units we've had so far, compared to just standard humans, they are a level above, I'd say. Especially if you use them right, if you find the best way to use them. Yes, so 5 Space Marine Scouts. The deployment zone for the Death Guard is shown above. It's just in the bottom corner there, the bottom left-hand corner. The Death Guard player deploys first. Space Marine player deploys using the Scouts Concealed Positions rule, and the Space Marine player takes the first turn. So, onto the victory conditions. The Space Marine player wins if they move a Scout into base contact with the objective. The objective, which is placed in the Death Guard deployment zone. So it's a defensive position for the Death Guard forces, and the Space Marine forces are on the offensive. I do like how not every battle has loads of models in it. Whilst yes, the Death Guard has 22 models in it, it's not a massively powerful force, because you're limited. Even your range, even though you've got ranged weapons now with the autoguns, they're not the strongest weapons. They're only strength 3, and the people wielding them only hit on 4s, so it's not like your Plague Marines who hit on 3s. The Death Guard player wins if the objective has not been reached by the end of the game. The game lasts 5 battle rounds. Also, Tide of Traitors is another rule you can use for the cost of 1 command point. This it's a really cool stratagem. Use this stratagem at the end of the movement phase. If you do not, if you do, pick a unit of Chaos Cultists and remove it from the battlefield, you can then set them up wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from any enemy models. At its full strength, at its full starting strength, you can only use this stratagem once per battle. You've got to really pick your time right to use this stratagem. If, say, the Scouts, the Space Marine Scouts, take out 9 of the cultists, that's the ideal time to use it because you've only got 1 cultist left. Whilst you've still got 1 cultist on the battlefield, use that stratagem and then you bring in your cultist as a fully refreshed force. But if you leave it too late to use it, your cultists will be wiped out, and unless I'm misunderstanding something, you won't be able to use it. Let me just reread it again. Use this stratagem at the end of movement phase. If you do, pick a unit of Chaos Cultist and remove it from the battlefield. Yeah, so that to me says you need to have the Chaos Cultist still on the battlefield. So if you can hold your nerve, leave it till you've got 1 cultist left. But with the Space Marine Scouts shooting at you, you can reasonably well predict how well they're going to shoot at you. How many models, there's statistics that you can use. How the strength of their weapons, what dice roll do they need to wound you, what dice roll do they need to hit. They're hitting on 3s because they're Space Marines. What I'm trying to say is there's ways of working out roughly how many guys you'll lose to a certain unit shooting at them in the battle. So what you want to do is probably weather one round of shooting, but as soon as you get below 5 models, think about using that stratagem, because you don't want to. If you lose 6 models to the first round of Space Marine shooting, then you don't want to take another round of Space Marine shooting, because chances are you're going to lose the same number of models. So ideally, as soon as you're down to below half your number of Chaos Cultists, I'd consider using that stratagem to bring them all on again. Anyway, on to the next page. It's the Chaos Cultist stats. They move 6 inches, which is fast for a Death Guard unit. Weapon skill, ballistic skill, both standard for like guardsmen and stuff like that at 4. Strength and toughness, standard human stats. If you've played 40k for a bit, you'll know what they are. Wounds, 1, they're just standard for humans. Attacks, 1 for your line guy and 1 for your sergeant. And the save and throw, as I've said, is 6 up. Abilities, inexorable advance. So models in this unit can fire twice with rapid fire weapons at a range of 18 inches. They also do not suffer a hit penalty for advancing and firing assault weapons, which is pretty good. The auto guns are rapid fire weapons, so you've got 6 auto guns in the unit, meaning you'll get 12 shots at 18 inches with the auto guns, and then plus your pistol shots and stuff like that. Obviously they're only 12-inch weapons then. And on to the next page, which is blank because it's the back of the stats. And then on to the back page. What are we getting in next week's issue? We're getting the Hemotrope Reactor. The Hemotrope Reactor, a lovely bit of terrain, as I gushed over last week. I know the price of that kit now. Should I save it till next week, or should I tell you the price of that kit? Because I looked it up today. Also looked up the price of the Chaos Cultist. May have got that wrong at the start, but I think it's £6. So the Hemotrope Reactor is it's just under £30, I'll say that much. And then on to the next week's issue after that, issue 52, it's a pot of Astro Granite. It's going to be a low value issue. I think it'd be nice, it'd be nice if they gave you a texture spreader or something with this Astro Granite, so you don't have to ruin your brushes using it. But it doesn't say you're getting a texture spreader, so I can't see that happening myself. I don't know how much the texture spreader costs either, so it might be that they don't want to give them away. So it's a low value issue, but if you subscribe to the magazine, you've got to take the value of the subscription as a whole, I'd say. So you divide it up by the number of issues, and it's well worth it subscribing to the magazine, because you're saving. I worked it out before Conquest launched, and I worked out that you're saving something like between 40 and 30% on everything if you just subscribe to the magazine. However, there are going to be some lower value issues like this issue 52, because it's less than £5 value of that issue. So if you are just buying it from the shops, then maybe think about skipping that issue unless you really need the Astro Granite. However, one thing to bear in mind is the Astro Granite. Well, one thing to bear in mind is all the lore that's going to be in that issue. I'm sure it's going to be a lore-rich issue, because they can't spend 8 pages of a painting guide showing you how to base your miniatures when they've already showed you that once. Surely not. I imagine it'll be a pretty lore-rich issue, that. But another thing to bear in mind is if you are basing your miniatures as they tell you to in the painting guides, then you will need another pot of Astro Granite. So why not just buy the magazine anyway? Or, of course, you can just nip into Games Workshop and get it for £4.75 instead of £7.99. It's up to you, really, whether you make that decision. I'll be getting the magazine because I review it on the channel. There we go. I'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.